to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just never seems to fit. And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just never seems to fit. And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just never seems to fit. And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just never seems to fit. And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just never seems to fit. And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just never seems to fit. And you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Hello and welcome to Making Chicken Salad, the Wrestle Radio Australia podcast where we talk about everything going on around the world of wrestling. I am your host, Lachlan Albert, and I am joined by number 501, Todd Eastman. Todd, how you doing, mate?
I was so close. So close.
And we're also joined by Australia's biggest city, Geoff Setti. Geoff, how you doing, mate?
I am a big city. I am a huge fucking city.
He's not as big as he used to be.
He's not as big.
He's downside.
The reason
More of a county now.
The reason that we're talking about city sizes is, while it's bigger than Wagga Wagga, it's a thrilling time to be in Perth right now, as WWE have just announced that Elimination Chamber Perth will take place at Optus Stadium in Perth, Western Australia, on Saturday, February 24th, 2024. Let's jump right into a little video and we can watch that announcement now.
Hey everybody, it is the Game, Triple H, and I just wanted to take a moment to tell you how excited we are to be bringing a premium live event to Western Australia in 2024 when the WWE Elimination Chamber comes to Perth. The Elimination Chamber is one of the most iconic events in sports entertainment and will have direct impact on the road to WrestleMania 40. I want to thank our partners at Tourism Western Australia and Optus Stadium for their support. Now, I've been all over the world and I can tell you firsthand, Perth is one of the most amazing places on this planet, and we invite the entire WWE universe from around the world to join us there in February. Now, really, there is only one question left to ask. Perth, are you ready?
Got to get the cheap pop in, right? So yes, very exciting. Sorry, saw the video, clicked it, went for it. Why not? So February 24th, 2024, it's going to be WWE's first event in Australia since 2018 when we had Super Showdown. It's also the only PLE in the Asia Pacific region in 2024. It is obviously going to be globally televised. This is a big one, a huge announcement for Aussie wrestling. Todd, thoughts?
Well, they really, like, it was leaked like Saturday that this might be happening, and then we're here on Thursday, and they've named it, and they flew the New Day into the announcement and the whole 9 yards. It's great for Perth because they're always complaining that they missed out on stuff, so they can't complain now.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are complaining about how far Perth is away from the population centres of Australia. But hey, if that's the government that's going to give them some money to put on a big show, that's where the big show's going to be. Geoff, you got any special thoughts on this one?
I mean, ironically, as you both know, I spent last week in Perth. I happened to be there visiting some mates and spending some time there. So while I was there wasn't a lot of buzz about it. But as I was getting on the plane on Saturday afternoon, that buzz was ramping up more and more and more. I think that it's really, really good for Perth itself. Now, the Perth government is definitely looking at major events at Optus Stadium. They had Coldplay doing 2 shows. It was the only city in Australia that got Coldplay. And they had the UFC doing an event, which kicked off at the ridiculous hour of 9 o'clock. I don't think WWE are going to bend. Yeah, I don't think WWE are going to bend and change the time, though. I think it will still be a Saturday night show. I guess we'll find out in coming weeks, just because it's what they did over here when they had Super Showdown. Getting a PLE, though, getting an actual recognised event is a huge coup, because common sense would be they're not going to lug that Elimination Chamber across the ocean, but clearly they either are or they're going to get someone to make one here. And then, that's a smart move if they do, because then that can be utilised in future years for Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, who knows, Hobart. Not Hobart. I don't know Hobart. But it's an interesting move and good on them. And I cannot wait to go there and see the show. Bullet Pelican said they should do a Raw or SmackDown in other states of Australia. I don't think they're going to be able to, mate, because the deal is with the WA government. Tourism WA are putting a bunch of money in this to get people there in late Feb. It's a really smart move also in terms of timing. It's the weekend after the Perth Fringe finishes. So people who have gone for Perth Fringe might just stick around and do more. So, there you go.
In terms of timing, it's also interesting because it's the only PLE between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, right? It's 6 weeks before Mania. So this is, and we've seen in the past, typically it doesn't have to be the biggest premium event if it's between those 2 tentpole events, right? You get whoever's won the Rumble gets their big match to show off why they might be champion. The champion gets to defend their title to show why they're going to be in the main event of WrestleMania, all of that kind of stuff. But in the past, it has been a really exciting show because of the implications that it has on WrestleMania. And especially this being in the lead up to WrestleMania 40, a big anniversary WrestleMania. It's really exciting. I think that we've managed to get a hold of a really good show here. And yeah, like you said, having the chamber itself, and like was mentioned by Alex Firehard in the chat, more so shocked that Australia is getting a, quote, actual name value event instead of something like Super Showdown. So yeah, I think this is going to be awesome. I think that I am going to be extremely out of pocket so that I can go to this show. I'm sure that I won't be the only Australian who is in that boat. But I think this is a great thing for Aussie wrestling. Like we've said in the past, I'm really hoping that whether it's Oceania Pro or EPW, we do get an Aussie showcase in this week. That's the thing that I will be really crossing my fingers for.
I think also
time difference might help them as well with Perth. I don't know. I don't know if that'll help them or hurt them.
I think also you're going to get, as you did with Super Showdown, you're going to get a lot of people that go along for a look. So you got a lot of non-wrestling fans going to Super Showdown just to have a look at what it was going to be like. Unfortunately, it was a little bit shit. Let's be honest. It wasn't a great show. Buddy.
Are you saying that Kane, Undertaker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels shouldn't have been main eventing in their 60s? They were in their 50s. I'm exaggerating.
They didn't. It was Taker versus Trips, but yes.
Oh, that's right. That was on the other show that shouldn't be named.
But I think it's a really, really great opportunity for Australia to see the new style of creative, which is an older style of creative, but is nonetheless a lot better. It's also that exciting time, as you mentioned, Locke, where the WrestleMania card is really, really sort of coming together at that point. And, you know, we could see Roman. We could see, you know, we're going to see, no matter what, they're going to bring out some good names. And we could see some more Bloodline, Judgment Day saga, whatever it is. It's going to be great.
Well, look, I'm jumping a little bit all over the place here, but now that we're talking about the big names coming and we're talking about showcasing Aussie wrestlers, let's talk about, it's the big day every year. The PWI 500 gets announced and everyone decides to have a laugh about it because it means absolutely nothing. Let's run through some of the headlines. First off, the top 3 wrestlers this year are The Shield. Number 1 is Seth Rollins. Number 2 is Roman Reigns. Number 3 is Jon Moxley. I'll run through the top 20 here, followed by Gunther, Vikingo, MJF, Okada, Orange Cassidy, Josh Alexander, and Cody Rhodes, rounding out the top 10, followed by Sonata, Castagnoli, Carmelo Hayes, Samoa Joe, Masha Slamovich, Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay, Alexander Hammerstone, Bobby Lashley, and Trey Miguel in the top 20. And yes, Bobby, we are live having this conversation. So if you want to complain about not being in the PWI 500, you can.
Can we shoot this whole thing again, or are we live, pal? Sorry, it's an
We're live,
start
pal.
from scratch. Yeah.
Terrible.
But I think for us, we're going to talk about the Aussies who were named in the PWI 500. So I'll actually go from the bottom up here. We had Katie Trey at 483, someone that we've talked very highly about. Redshaw at 470, at 421, Unsocial Jordan, 413, Vixen, 359, Mick Moretti, 335, Cherry Stevens, 327, Jessica Troy, 325, Emin Usman, 309, Matt Hayter, 287, Corn Dog, 283, Tommy Knight, 266, Loose Ledge Adam Brooks, 261, Ricky South, 250, Shazza McKenzie, 211 is Robbie Eagles, 188 is Kyle Fletcher, 150, Bronson Reed, and 143, Buddy Matthews. Another headline that came along with this was someone totally not on the list at all, which was Tetsuya Naito. Apparently a mistake by PWI not including him, not an official statement about anything. They just entirely forgot.
I know this sounds incredibly like homeristic, but like Mitch Ryder deserved to be in that list. If you're looking at Australian wrestlers that have done stuff all around the world this year, not only like the matches he had in Australia, because he had some really good matches in Australia against, like, say, Vikingo. He had matches with on the NWA tour with the tag champions from NWA. He held majority of belts in Queensland for the majority of the year. Like, I know that sounds exactly it sounds very like I'm saying, oh, that's my guy, blah, blah, blah. But it's not. It's just, if it was anyone in Queensland and had the same sort of track record over that year, I would have been saying the same thing. It's just, there's a lot of guys that missed out, I'm sure. But when I look at it, there are guys on this list, and nothing against them, but they didn't do nearly as much as what Mitch had done this year.
And Nick Galea mentioned Slex, who was in Japan for part of the year that this would have been relevant and had some great matches for Noah. I agree with you, Nick. No Slex is a what the fuck decision. You've got to be scratching your head why Slex didn't get a mention this year. And he's simply working one of the best wrestlers in Australia, I'm sure, alongside Mitch as well. It's great to see some of those names there. Really happy to see Emin. Thrilled to see Hayter, and obviously thrilled to see Robbie. Robbie's got a reasonably big spot, but I think that, not putting Slex in, not putting Mitch Ryder in, and definitely not putting Naito in means that the editors of PWI decided that medicinal marijuana would be a good thing to try at this late stage.
I'm confused as to how they decide on which women qualify for the 500 and which only qualify for the 150, right? So I assume it has something to do with a number of intergender matches taking place, but it's really weird. It's weird to see, for instance, and this is not to downplay any of these people, but, in the top 15 is Masha Slamovich, right? Just out of the Aussies, we had Shazza McKenzie, we had Jessica Troy, we had Cherry Stevens, we had Vixen, and then Rhea Ripley's not on the list, right?
Yeah, I would say it is intergender matches, because if you're going to do that, then there'll be a lot of women that could be on that list just merely from Japan.
Oh, 100%. But
so it would be the intergender is what it would be. It'd have to be.
I guess it has to be, but it makes it really strange to then have a women's 150 when you've already put women on the 500. You know what I mean?
I think maybe that the women qualify for the women one because the majority of their opponents are women, or do you know what I mean? Whereas they can qualify for both in the just PWI. If that makes sense. I mean, I don't even know if that sounds like reverse sexist to say, but it is. That's just the reality of it. Because if somebody had said, "Oh, look, women can't qualify. It doesn't matter if they face the men or not," there would have been a huge stink about that. I don't know. I think there would be anyway. There would have been a big uproar.
And playing devil's advocate, I think there would also be a stink if they did not then have the women's 150 because there were women included in the 500 if they were at a much lower rate then, right?
Yeah.
So I have to assume it's based on intergender, but then the idea that, somebody like, as good as I think Masha Slamovich is, I love Masha. I don't think she beats out Rhea Ripley, despite the fact that obviously Rhea has not had the number of intergender matches, but she has been in ring. She hasn't had any official matches, but she's been getting in the ring and mixing it up with the dudes regularly, right? It's a weird question. I agree with Bullet Harlequin as well. No Grayson Waller on the 500 is very interesting.
I could be wrong, but because I was listening to an interview today on House of Wrestling, where they were talking to one of the guys who was involved in the PWI 500, the actual compiling of the list. And I think it ended in May, just because of the way they have to do it.
July is the cutoff normally? Start of July? Yeah.
No, well, July is when it goes to print. So apparently they finalize the list in May. June, July is when they write it, and then it goes in. That's when it goes to print. So we don't get it till now. Which really, it does show how far behind print is nowadays to where we want, the whole instant, you write a blog, bang, it's up, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Nick makes a good point in with respect to Masha specifically, is that she was world champion GCW, and the thing we've got to remember is this is a gimmick list, right? This is theoretically within the world of pro wrestling. This is who do they think, if all of these people had matches, what would be the tournament results? That's what it comes down to, is they think, based on the characters, number one would beat all the others and number two would beat everyone but number one.
Oh, not necessarily. It was more, they went from shoot like results. It was a whole list. The guy.
There's a bunch of stuff that goes into it.
Yeah,
but
it's not pure wrestling. Because if it was pure wrestling, then Will Ospreay would be like Will Ospreay.
Yes.
Like Bryan Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. That would be a top fucking 3.
It's also not pure gimmick, because like we've seen Seth lose to Roman for the title a couple of times, and yet Seth comes out on top, right? So it's this weird mix of like how often someone is a champion and how often they defend their titles and how often they beat competitors of a high stature that goes
and
into,
that's why
it's a bizarre list.
That's why Seth ranked above Roman. And MJF,
because he's just got more title defenses in a shorter
actually
time.
in the interview I listened to, they just said that if this had been done a little earlier, MJF wouldn't have even made the top 10 because of the way he hadn't really worked that year. It's like it's only been the last few months that he's worked fairly consistently.
But again, I would say probably if it was compiled later, I think MJF would have come out even higher, because there has recently been just a couple of really big name shows. He won the Ring of Honor tag belts. You know, he main evented the theoretically biggest paid gate ever. So that would then push him up, right? So all of these things come into practice, where this is a list that is a snapshot of a point in time that is not old, but not current, in a world that is halfway between gimmick and reality.
Yeah. But look, if we're looking on the upside of things, there is 18 Aussies in that top 500. Whereas
that's huge.
5 years ago, there would have been 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been like Buddy Murphy. I don't know who else. Like who else they would have. The world shrunk as well as expanded, if that makes sense. Like people are seeing a lot more of. Obviously, the world's seeing a lot more of PWA just through the amount of PWA workers that you've seen on this list.
Yeah, look, Bobby in the chat saying it gives Meltzer star ratings vibes a bit. But what we're saying right there is it's not just based on performance, it's also based on the gimmick side of it with, you know, being champion is worth something.
Yeah. I mean, really, when you think about it, it is. Because that's
sure, but Meltzer doesn't give you extra stars for being champ.
No, but he takes them off for being in different places.
That's true. Anything to say, Geoff? I know you're a little bit behind on your connection, so we'll give you a chance to talk.
Thanks, Lockie. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my connection tonight. It's probably all the porn I'm downloading. Look, I think it's. I think that it's. There's a lot of names that are missing that have been mentioned, and I think that that's the biggest head scratcher of it all. Those names that are missing, we're going to wonder where they would have scored if the PWI editors were actually on the ball and looking at what was really going on.
Well, look, I saw someone there ask about Grayson Waller. He's been injured for a lot of the time, and when he hasn't really wrestled that much. If you look, how many times has he really wrestled in WWE, in like the main roster?
No.
So he had big moments.
When he has wrestled, he's lost.
4 of them.
Yeah, he's had big moments and had big spots and given a lot of people the rub, as he likes to say. Hasn't really had that many matches. So as much as he's in the forefront of everyone's mind, the work rate, and that's not on him, it's on being booked into matches, isn't that high.
Yeah, and again, if we're saying that this cut off a couple of months ago, you know, then you've got to account for some of those moments wouldn't have even been considered. Right? Like, if I think back to he had the match against Edge, I don't know if that makes the cutoff.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it wouldn't have.
It does nowhere near it.
Yeah.
No, and
anyway, let's move on.
I think that's his main roster debut. Yeah. So anyway, as much as we want to talk about the PWI 500, this is a show about Aussie wrestling. And so we watched an Aussie wrestling show. We watched MCW Ascension, which you can catch on Fight Plus. If you've got a Fight Plus subscription, it's free. Head on over to FITEtv, search for MCW. You'll be able to find it. There was a pre-show that I did not get a chance to watch, which was Lockie versus Jake Taylor. Lockie coming out on top of that one. Obviously, on account of the name, I think that's a great, victory there. I think Jake Taylor's a good talent, but I can't speak to this match. Geoff, you were there live, so you would have seen this one.
Geoff was at the bar.
No, I didn't. Complete disclosure, we ate dinner late and walked in a bit late, so we did miss the pre-show. We were there, We were there in time for the opener, which was Stevie Philippe against Barry O'Leary, Lucky O'Leary.
Yeah, and Stevie Philippe defeating Lucky O'Leary, I thought was a really good match. We've talked about the Philippes previously, and this did exactly what we've talked about.
Actually, I've got a correction. It wasn't Stevie. It was Tome. It was actually Tome. It was the Phoenix and not the Tiger.
This is from Cage Match. So that's from Cage Match. So you can blame Cage Match.
So
it was the Phoenix, baby. They did what we've been saying.
Positive it was.
And they had a Philippe get in and wrestle and get out. Because my goodness, the wrestling performance in this match was spectacular. Turns out when you don't have a microphone in a Philippe's hand and you just let their charisma be their wrestling, it's real good. I think that Lucky O'Leary was fantastic in this spot. Really able to immediately get the crowd against him, which meant that, they wanted to see him get destroyed, and he got flipped into oblivion. We love seeing a Phoenix splash. It's great. I thought this was perfect as an opener. Todd, do you agree?
It was, it was fine.
It was good. The crowd really, really, really enjoyed it.
And the other thing is that we got, as a result of this, on the screen, Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita calling out the Philippes for a match, which I think should be really exciting. One of the things I really enjoyed about this show was that because the next show is based around a match that got named at the end of the show, they all just kept saying, the upcoming show on October 16th, because the show didn't have the name officially announced yet. That was real good fun for me. I loved noticing that. But yeah, I think that, look, the Philippes versus TMDK is going to be an absolute banger. Moving on from that, the Intercommonwealth title and the women's title were both on the line in a winner-takes-all match between Jarvis and Emin Usman. Yeah, fully agree with Nick Galea. Lucky O'Leary is fantastic. A really great prospect there. Jarvis defeating Emin Usman to become both the Intercommonwealth and women's champions. I think that as soon as it was announced that the women's title was also on the line here, I couldn't see Emin holding the women's title. And to me, that made the match a little predictable.
Yeah, but
I actually went with a... Should I
go on?
Dude,
yeah, go on, brother.
I actually went for the first time, thanks, a mate who's seen wrestling a lot but never watched it live. And firstly, he had the time of his life. Absolutely loved it. And secondly, he was like, I don't know who's going to win this. I'm not sure who's going to win this. And he spent most of the match saying he wasn't sure who's going to win this. So just as a counterpoint, Locke, it's quite possible that people who, the meme is still there that some won't know. Some won't know. I also worked it out pretty quickly, but some won't know. I thought this was a wonderful match, though. The two of them have such great chemistry, and Jarvis is such a good shit heel. He really is.
I think we're going to be seeing Jarvis versus Emin for years. I think this is going to be one of those, like we talked about with the main event of Coliseum being, Robbie Eagles versus Adam Brooks again. I think this is going to be one of those, in a few years' time, we're going, it's Jarvis and Emin again, so it's going to be good.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Todd.
Jarvis's strength. Oh, no. Why not? Go for it again. Do it again. Anything else, mate? No.
I won't do it twice. You go.
You could talk underwater with a mouthful of marble. I swear to God. Jarvis's just strength of personality alone gets him over before even locking up. That's like half the battle is won before he even has to lock up. And like his actual in-ring skill backs up his personality as well. So the fact that he's only been around really MCW for what, 4 shows, and is that like entrenched and over with the crowd is a real testament to his character, to his ability to get himself over with that crowd.
As we were leaving, I walked past Jarvis in the street and he had one belt over each shoulder and a shit-eating grin on his face. And it was just this wonderful moment where he was still maintaining that character, walking down High Street, Northcote, just being that little bastard. Yeah, really funny and really, really good.
Alex Firehart asking if they were going to unify those belts now, or Jarvis is just going to stay double champ for a while. I'm really not sure about this. They could go either way because the upcoming match is going to be Delta versus Jarvis for both titles. And if they want to go the way of, and look, this is a conversation we've been having for a while, is where is the level of women's presence on MCW shows? We're going to talk a little bit later about how I think we've reviewed the last few MCW shows, and this is the first time in the last while we've had a women's singles match to review. And it was a bloody good one. But I think that it aligns them with the other promotions in Australia if instead of having a women's title, they unify it with the secondary title. That's what's happened with PWA, where the women's championship became the soul of PWA championship. And we've seen that at any given time, a woman has been either involved in the main event title picture or the soul of PWA title picture, right? Because that's where their roster sits. And if you've got someone like Delta in MCW, she easily fits across those two rosters. In saying that, outside of people like Jess Troy and Delta and Cherry Stevens, I don't know if MCW has the kind of women around who would be filling those roles. When you look at someone like Aisha, who was on this show, and I love Aisha, I don't necessarily think Aisha fits in an open division as well as those other people that we're talking about. And it becomes a problem where obviously Renegades have a women's championship, and Renegades has been able to have some women consistently on their shows in a division. Right. So the question becomes, if you unify those belts, does that take away opportunities for women like Aisha, or does it grant more opportunities to women like Delta? And it's hard for me to have a solid prediction on that.
I think it's about the story. So if the story for Aisha to go after a unified title is believable, great. It's about the story, mate. It's not about anything else but that.
Yeah, look, you know me pretty well, Lucky, and I'm all about quality control. If they're good enough to be on the shows, then you put them on the shows. If the bookers, whoever is in charge there at the time, doesn't think that certain people are up to that standard of show, then they're not going to be on that show, I would assume. It's the same with PWA. PWA are the same. Like, you have a look at the women who are on that show, and they could hang with anybody. And so I guess it's just a matter of whoever's in charge there, or whoever's like doing that in MCW, thinking that whoever's in the role can be in that role. There's no point putting someone in a position when they're not ready to be in that position, because then they look bad and it just ruined, like, a first impression lasts. So,
yep,
and that's
absolutely.
That's just me anyway.
No, I think that, and look, Nick Galea has said the answer for a woman to fit that dual role is Erica Reed in Melbourne. there is also an issue where it seems like, from an outsider perspective, MCW don't necessarily have a relationship with all of the women's talent that can be present in Victoria, right? I know that's a strange way to say it, but from memory, this is the first time that I've seen Aisha on an MCW show in a long time. I know Aisha's been working with Renegades, and you look at Renegades, they've had people like Shazza McKenzie, people like Tali. I know Avery was on the Renegades roster, though I don't believe she's wrestled for them. I don't think Avery's wrestling at the moment, right? So you end up in this situation where you've got a women's division that's not unified in Victoria, and the result is that if you've got one or two over here and one or two over here and one or two over here, and they're not commingling between promotions, there's a much smaller roster to be working with, right? And it ends up being that you almost need to have, instead of a women's title, unifying it with the Intercommonwealth, so that if you are only putting 2 or 3 women on your shows, then that's what you end up with, right? You cannot consistently have person A versus person B versus person C, person A versus person C. Now they're in a triple threat match. Start it again from the top. Go. It's a shame, right? And Nick Gully is saying they've put all their eggs in the basket with PWA talent, and as great as they are, we'll never know if people down here will sink or swim if there's a constant reliance on interstate fly-ins. But at the same time, then we fall back on what Todd said of, if you don't have the quality of performer in Victoria that's ready to go on a show, what do you do?
I think that I get that this is a recurring issue in Melbourne. Now, there's a lot of up and coming talent in Melbourne, and part of the problem is when someone's good, there's not enough work in Australia. Particularly for female wrestlers, it's a vicious cycle. So they go overseas and they get found overseas and do really well, and then they don't come back for a few years. And if they come back, it's a one shot, and then the whole thing begins again. Because as fast as promoters can elevate female talent, it's probably not quite fast enough for what audiences would like, and certainly what I would like. So I think that eventually it's gonna reach a point where there's enough women wrestlers in Australia where we can actually have decent enough women's representation everywhere.
I'll add this, right? Currently, there are 31 people on the MCW roster website page. There's 31 people. There are 4 women as part of that. It's Cherry Stevens, Delta, Jess Troy. Sorry, I'm wrong. It's 3. It's Cherry Stevens, Delta, and Jess Troy out of 31. That's who they've got on their roster page. And that's with Delta coming in from Adelaide and both Cherry Stevens and Jess Troy coming down from Sydney. Right? So I would be hopeful that, and I can talk about, vaguely what's happening in Brisbane at the moment, where we've got a couple of women who are on shows consistently, and we have a bunch of women who are in training. I know that we had one female wrestler debut just the other week. There's, a couple who have had maybe one match, but who are getting to the point where they can be consistent enough to be on those shows. So at the moment, we don't have women on the shows, but 1 or 2 years down the line, we might have lots. And for me, it's impossible to know if that's what's going on at MCW at the moment. Because if they're flying in all the women...
The PWA roster didn't grow overnight.
No.
It wasn't just like one day, like, bang, everyone was there. It took time for them to also work into that roster.
The exciting thing is, for Melbourne people, is that PCW, and MCW are now working together. So they've combined their talents, which means that anyone who comes through the MCW, PCW training facility will be trained by both Jay and Tricky, which is really, really good. What that means is that the women who come through will be A, trained by 2 great wrestlers and have a great grounding in talent, and B, will hopefully be able to move up quicker as long as they're seem to be the complete package. There are some good people around here, but it's just time and training and getting them up.
Yeah. Look,
and
to return to the conversation.
Do you know what the thing
making
is,
sure
though?
they keep a level of fitness. Sorry, that's the third time I've interrupted you, Todd. But making sure they keep fit and they keep mindful.
I'm getting used to it. It's fine. The thing is, and it's just what I think it is that we live in a microwave generation, and everybody expects their meals done in 30 seconds, and it just doesn't work that way with wrestling.
No.
It takes a while to mature. It takes a while to learn the ropes. It takes a while to get to a level where that if you are a decent promotion, you demand that your workers be at that level.
Old man Eastman yells at Cloud. We'll return in a moment.
Well, am I wrong, Lockie? Am I wrong?
I agree with him.
You can call me old man Eastman, but am I wrong?
Look, I think the idea that we don't have the attention span to wait for someone capable is wrong. I just think that I agree that
you're wrong.
I agree that someone who needs to be, if someone's going to be on a card, they need to be of a certain level. I agree with that. What I don't agree with is that the only reason there aren't women on the roster is that people aren't being patient enough, right? Clearly, and again, I may be talking out of turn here, but to me, it seems that behind the scenes, there has been problems with the way women are treated within certain companies, whether that's by staff or by fans or in general, that leads to not having a consistent roster of women when they are good enough to be on shows. I'm saying, okay, I understand what you're saying, Geoff. I'm prepared for this because I don't know what's going on. But if I look at the number of women who have successfully been on MCW, and there's not a small number, right? In fact, later in this show, we got to see the lineage of the MCW Women's Championship. And I think Delta is the only woman from that lineage who is still wrestling in the company. Other than maybe Jess Troy, who can fly in. Right? So,
but why is that? Because most of them have gone overseas. Steph Delander,
most of those people have gone overseas.
Shazza,
Steph
not here.
Delander gone.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a thing.
But some of them haven't. Some of them aren't wrestling anymore, right?
No, and some of them just aren't wrestling anymore. So what do you want them to do? Bring them out of retirement because we need another woman?
No, I'm saying that
they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it
within the community, Todd. I'm saying that if half of the title history is no longer wrestling, that speaks to that's a much
not wanting to wrestle anymore. It doesn't have to be because they don't like the industry.
The same time period of the men's roster.
Yeah, and there's 1,000 more men than there are women. Like,
and here's the other thing:
it's indie wrestling, dude. No one's making a living off this shit, so sometimes they can't fucking wrestle anymore because they've got to go and get a job.
I mean, let's be honest. One of those two people won't wrestle again because of things that person said around the traps. Like, even if they wanted to, I'd say their opportunities are squandered. The other person has retired for all intents and purposes and is either a vet or a vet nurse, and good for her. She's found a dream and she wants to follow it because she loves animals. That's got nothing to do with the way either of those people were treated in any locker room.
All right.
You can't just assume
I come
because
in
they're not
without
doing
that
it anymore.
information, though. But what I can say is that it seems like the turnover of women in Australian wrestling is much higher than the turnover of men.
No,
Yeah,
well,
because
see,
a lot-
I think. No, I just think there's not as many of them. You're not seeing the turnover because there's not as many of them.
And the pool for women is much less worldwide. So if WWE pick up someone who can talk, who's got a look, and who can wrestle, they're going to go, fine, we'll grab them. Or AEW, or Japan.
Look, that's a really valid point, is that a lot of the women who we're not seeing anymore have been picked up internationally because the Australian women's wrestling scene, when it's good, is phenomenal, right? Let's make that very clear, that the reason Aussie women are dominating overseas is because when we do have Aussie women at the top of the mountain, they are bloody spectacular. If you look at the Rhea Ripleys and the Toni Storms and everyone who we have produced basically has gone on to hold titles.
Yep.
Like that's just how it goes, right?
Yep.
It just seems like, and I guess this is just a factor of, because of the men who are at the top, they stay at the top. When you see that turnover of women, it's much more pronounced because it's a higher percentage of the roster, right? We've got people like Slex who have been in Melbourne wrestling forever. We don't have that on the women's roster because either they retire, which lots of male wrestlers do as well, or they get picked up and go overseas. So we don't have that middle of the road, your Slexes and your Adam Brooks, who are here regularly, even though they've been doing it for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So I think my argument is that the women's wrestlers are too good.
No, they're just. Mate,
I think the argument
you know what?
that they're.
It's easier to catch. It's easier to catch a big fish in a small barrel than it is a big fish in an amazingly big barrel, and that's the difference between the women's wrestling and the men's wrestling. There's a lot. There's a lot more men like doing it around the country, and a lot less women. So if they're specifically looking for a woman wrestler, then the choices aren't exactly vast. Where if I was looking for a guy to come in, there's fucking thousands of them to choose from around the country.
And look at it this way.
You know what I mean?
We know in the next 12 months, Delta's probably going to go because there's no way that people aren't going to look at Delta and go, what an amazing product she represents and what an amazing person. You know, so we're going to lose Delta as well. Aisha will probably stick around. I don't know. She's already been to America a couple of times, I believe. You know, and more. There's going to be more. So
I have to imagine that if Jess Troy wants to go, she'll be gone.
Absolutely. And Charlie's here and Charlie's gone. You know, Charlie seems to spend half a time here and then half a time in the US. So she's going to go. Shaz is already gone. We're going to, I can't see Cherry Stevens lasting forever either. So all of these people are eventually going, and good for them. They're going to live their dreams. They're going to move up. They're going to be in WWE or
and on top of that, you've got women like Belle Pierce who would be a perfect fit for a company like Shimmer. Like if I was Shimmer and I saw Belle Pierce, I'd go, you've got an open invitation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but here's the thing too. I've seen girls in Australia this is going back a few years that have had maybe 2 or 3 matches in Australia go to Shimmer and work. Now you could never see that happen from a male perspective. You can never see a guy having say 2 or 3 matches at MCW all of a sudden going over and working a high profile indie in America. It just wouldn't happen because of the choice. The choices is a lot more vast, if that makes sense.
That's true.
It's just the difference between straight men's women, like I don't mean straight, I mean
cis men.
Not intergender wrestling. Yes, thank you. Not intergender wrestling is just the difference. It's unfortunate. I wish there was thousands of women to choose from in the industry. I wish there was, but it's not something a hell of a lot of women are attracted to doing.
Unfortunately, as long as we're in a situation where these cards have a grand total of 3 women on the roster, this is a conversation that's going to keep coming up. And I hope that it comes up less because the women who I assume are in training get to the point where they can wrestle a match and deserve to be on a card. But there's a lot of competition to be on cards these days. So exactly. Let's hope. I do want to get back to this match specifically. Obviously, Jarvis and Emin was a great match. We don't have to say much more about it. I'll jump to the end of the show where Emin was part of a big brawl. My partner came in partway through the show and saw the brawl happening. And she stopped it. She said, "Who's the little guy?" And I went, "What are you talking about?" And she pressed play again and she found a shot of Emin. She went, "Him? Who's he?" And I went, "Oh, that's Emin. He's great, blah, blah, blah." And she went, "Yeah, he's got something." She said, "You immediately pick him out of all the guys there." So my partner who enjoys wrestling but doesn't watch a lot of it sees all these guys and goes, Emin. So that's got to speak to, and again, that brawl had a lot of really significant names in it, and she was immediately drawn to Emin. Emin has a kind of charisma that you can't teach. And I think, you know, congratulations to him on a 100+ day title reign there.
Yes, did well.
It was a good match.
Unfortunately, yeah. I wish they'd have been able to showcase him a little bit more on his reign, but still, like, it's progressive story now. We'll see where it goes from here with Jarvis and that whole thing.
And obviously, Emin's going places. He's in the Coliseum tournament, so that'll be fun.
Yep.
Moving on from there. Yeah. By the way, if you come into the Coliseum tournament, say hi. The Sacrament, Edward Dusk, Carlo Cannon. Dusk once again bringing the Sacrament to one of the old legends of MCW in the form of Carlo Cannon after back-to-back dispatches of Adam Brooks. This time, absolutely decimating Carlo with a wicked end on the stage into a chair that was just sickening. These matches have been, I think Carlo looked great here. Carlo has obviously been wrestling around while he's not been at MCW. And when you get a guy that big who moves that fast, the match is going to look good. And Dusk really showed that he can hang with someone like Carlo. He really makes the wrestling feel important, even in a match that's full of hardware. And the beatdown at the end of this match on top of, you know, him hitting a sick concerto that broke a chair and then just absolutely yelling into the camera. Dusk has to be, after whatever they're doing with Slex and Matthews, and I know they said it on commentary, Dusk has to be in the title picture. It's Dusk's time.
I can only agree with you. Live, this was extraordinary. Live, the crowd were popping for everything. I don't know. It picked up a fair bit of that on the video too. The production, by the way, of this show, much better than the Ballroom Brawl. Just smooth, wonderful, lovely to watch. Dusky is great. He really is. The Sacrament has grown on me from when it started. I wasn't a big fan, but now I really like it. And Carlo brings it. I mean, Carlo's a trainer as well. And so, you know, Emin is actually a student of Carlo's. Carlo taught Emin how to wrestle. So, you know, and Carlo offers something special every time we see him. And I'm hoping that's not it for NCW. I mean, obviously he won't be back for a little while. I'm hoping they find a way to get him back again because he's clearly still got it in the ring, and he's changed from being a high flyer to something more grounded and suplex and power based, and it's really, really good to see. I love this match. I thought it was fantastic.
It's, as far as I know, he's been doing a lot of work in Malaysia, like wrestling wise, and like definitely not out of form, because all he does is train at the academy. So
there's a clip of Carlo just tossing Emin through the air that goes viral on Twitter every so often.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty wonderful.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, really good match. Really good match. I hope they do find a spot for Carlo, because he's a asset to that roster, helping the young guys. Like, much as like we talk about the women's wrestling too. Like, I think that's what, like, the women's division could really use like a veteran woman to help them along. Like, this is what I think Carlo could do for the men's division. And you talk about Dusk and having to be in the picture for the title coming up soon. What they've been doing from day one with this whole Sacrament thing is a slow burn for him to eventually peak at, when this whole dust settles, I assume, between Buddy Matthews and whoever gets that title from Buddy Matthews, you would assume will be a face. I dare say that Dusk will be the big bad coming after that person. And
you say a slow burn, Todd. I don't think Dusk knows how to do a quick burn. I think that he, as a professional wrestler, and we've talked about this, and I've been party to Dusk doing a bit of a seminar and just catching a little bit of it. He is so in tune to the storytelling aspect of wrestling, above and beyond what happens within the match. right? So, and Nick Galea adding as well, he wrestles like he's in a dirty fight. I absolutely agree with that. When Edward Dusk was up here at Wide Bay and he had a match against Bobby Bishop, they had wrestled in Melbourne, and I was on commentary and I spoke to Dusk about, is there anything important that commentary should be getting across in this match? And he gave me word for word what Bobby had said in the promos before their match in Melbourne, which was months prior, and how he responded to that, and how that played out in their match in Melbourne, and as a result, how the two characters had grown for this to be important in the match in Wide Bay. That's the kind of thinking that makes something like the Sacrament matter, right? Because we won't know what was important about the first match of the Sacrament until 6 months from now, right? There will be something in there that's going to have really mattered that we don't know about yet, because this story is not, and it's like we were saying before, Todd, if you want to call Microwave Generation, Dusk doesn't wrestle one match. He wrestles a story. And I think that long-term, he is absolute money. I think that Dusk is the future of Australia.
He's also an outlier. Like, there are not 1,000 Dusks around.
Oh God.
You know what I mean? When I say Microwave Generation, I mean for the fact that, like, you look at Jeff's favorite wrestler, LA Knight.
Yeah.
He rocks up.
Yeah.
He rocks up, and 5 minutes later, everyone's like, he should be beating Roman for the title. That's a microwave comment. I know you're shaking your head no, but what I'm saying is that's a microwave comment. The dude just showed up, and they're already going, he should be the one. No, that's not how that works. Like, seasoning. That's what I mean by Microwave Generation. And people just want everything now instead of waiting for something to develop.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you give it to them, they're not ready for the person that's getting it isn't ready for it. And then it fizzles out, and then they blame that person that you've pushed all the way. Like, oh, he wasn't ready. He should have done. They never said he was ready. You guys wanted him to be that. We gave it to you. He wasn't ready. That's why it didn't work. Don't blame us, because that's what you guys wanted. Whereas when we hold you back from it, why are you doing this? Why are you holding him down? You're burying that guy. He's just not ready.
They're selling T-shirts. They're selling T-shirts.
Yeah. But Dusk would be ready. Dusk would be ready tomorrow. But it's a better story if they let it cook.
Oh, yeah. And yes, I cannot wait to, in a couple of years' time, look back at the story of Edward Dusk the way we've looked back at the story of the Bloodline so far. You know what I mean? Because that's the kind of wrestler he is, in my mind. Moving on to something that I'm getting more hopeful for as time goes on, which is Shadow Alley. We've talked before about Mick Moretti fight clubbing himself and recruiting an army of clowns, and how that didn't particularly work for us. Now, we've had a reveal of who these clowns are, and under the mask, I'm more hopeful now that we know that Blake Malik and especially Ryan Rapid are part of this little stable, as they had a 6-man match with Big Ugg Energy, the team of Big Dude Energy and Caveman Ugg, in which they came out victorious through nefarious means, because they're evil clowns.
I do want to mention, Lachlan, that you skipped over
the promo.
There was a pre-match promo that was very poorly received. The rest of the show was amazingly well received by the audience in-house. Even this match was, but the promo itself got a really distracted audience.
Do you know what, though? That's like, I will blame the audience more for that. Like, they didn't actually give him a chance to speak. They started with the what chance, which is what you hate, and you're a part of it. I blame you, Geoff.
I was not watching. I was trying to listen.
You were yaring.
Yeah.
But the bugger off looking. But the problem was that, the crowd just didn't want the storyline. That was the thing. It wasn't necessarily anything against Moretti, because once Moretti got in ring and started to wrestle, the crowd were on board, and especially with, as you said, Ryan Rapid and Blake Malik backing him up. But the problem was that the crowd wanted none of the storyline.
But did this need to be the story? Did he need to Fight Club himself? Or could he have gotten beaten, gone, that's it, this is not working for me anymore. I need to go back to my roots. I need to find what made me a multiple champion across multiple promotions. And I need backup to do that. I need young kids with the energy that I can distort and break and turn evil. Did we need to have the, evil clowns are attacking Mick, but Mick is the one who recruited the... I think that this story was overcomplicated massively.
I think granted at some time ago when they devised the story, they probably planned for someone else to be behind Moretti's kidnapping who fell through, and so they thought they have to finish the story. They really didn't have to finish the story.
See, we say that, but if they'd have just dumped it, people would have said, well, what happened with that?
Yeah.
Why did you never...
I'm agreeing with you.
They're sort of stuck either way.
It was a joke.
I'm not saying it was the best. Yeah, I'm not saying it's the best thing, but like they sort of had to.
Can I pitch something? Again,
okay.
I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. What if instead the clowns had been working of their own thing? They decided that they needed to take down Moretti. Moretti showed that he is the best by beating them, unmasked them to reveal that they were young guys, and then took them under his wing anyway because they reminded him of him. Like, is that story that much worse?
Yeah, I mean, no.
Yeah.
Because the advantage of that is then you get to say, hey, by the way, Moretti's really good, and these kids are inexperienced, and now they've got Moretti on their side. That's the way that I would have preferred it to play out. But I really like Ryan Rapid. I think Blake Malik's got a lot of potential. I think that obviously BDE are great. Obviously Ugg's great. I didn't love that Ugg talked. No, I don't like Ugg talking.
Same. But you want to hear an act over as soon as BDE's music hit. The second it drops, the crowd erupted. MCW have got to make sure they keep booking Big Dave and Ricky because they're so popular. I know Ricky's overseas at the moment, but Dave looks great. But yeah, it's
Nicolia agreeing. The crowd warmed to the story once the match and story kicked in. Don't blame the crowd being a bit wary because the original reveal absolutely killed the crowd last show. Once the waffle stopped and the match and the Moretti Uggs started, the crowd woke right the fuck up. Yeah, absolutely agree, Nick.
I will say I'm not a massive fan of Ryan Rapid being in this group, just for the mere fact that I think he could stand on his own. I don't think he needs to be seen as somewhat of a red shirt, to use a Star Trek term, for Moretti, like just to be fodder, because that's really what those two are in this group. It's he sends them in to get hurt, and then he capitalizes on them getting that. I think Ryan Rapid is good enough. He could probably like have his own character and stand on his own. I understand that it might develop a bit more, but from a beginning perspective, that's just how I'm seeing it. But yeah,
you think Jimmy Townsend cannot stand on his own?
Yeah, but Jimmy Townsend's a different animal completely.
Because he's had. I was going to say, sounds to me like a member of the microwave generation. You want it now. You want Rapid to be a star now. You don't. No,
I don't want him to be. I don't want him to be a star. I just don't want him to be a lackey. I don't want him to be one of Nexus.
I don't
want him to be fucking Michael Tarver.
Let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
Moving on from here, we had the women's match where really the story was that Jarvis was on commentary. This was between Delta and Aisha. Jarvis on commentary, supporting Aisha, eventually interfering. There was a big whack with a title belt with a distracted referee. Delta ending up managing to take down Jarvis on the path to defeating Aisha and challenging Jarvis for both belts at the upcoming show. I love watching Aisha wrestle. I love watching Delta wrestle. This was a really good match.
Yeah. Zero complaints. Really, really lovely.
Yep. Anything to say, Todd, other than that was a good match?
No, it was good. It showed like Aisha is of the standard to be on these MCW shows, and it really does show. I think the reason that she hadn't been before, and this is the impression I get, is that if she came up and was on these shows, she would have to have been just destroyed by Delta, and maybe them looking after someone who is a champion of another Fed in that state, and not just bringing that person in to get killed, having a competitive match. Do you know what I mean? Like, because if you're going to bring her back on a regular basis, pretty much what would have happened because of how strong they booked Delta.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I'll jump quickly to what Nick Galea said in the chat, which is that Ryan Rapid's thing is that he's ridiculously talented, but he's a guy that the crowd needs to see do more than 5-minute pre-show matches. And being mixed foot soldier is an opportunity to show his obscene athletic ability. And I agree with Nick. And if we're talking about how hard it is to find spots on shows for people because of the quality of talent on these shows, I don't have a problem with him being a mook for Moretti, so that he can be on the shows having longer matches until he is ready to have his own storylines. I agree there.
And in PCW, Rapid had RB4K. So, he's not being in a stable is not new.
But he was one of the focal points of that stable.
And he'll probably become a focal point of this one.
Not really, because it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to be behind me. You just are.
Yes, you are, but there's ways for him to become a focal point.
Yeah, and Big Dave and Ricky Gilmore were behind UGG in their side of the match, right?
But they're a dedicated tag team. There's a difference.
But it's okay to be behind someone who is the best in the country.
Alex Fireheart, I'm going to read that out because I think it's absolutely hilarious. Alex has written, so Ryan Rapid is now Mook Moretti. That is brilliant. Thank you, Alex. Kudos.
Thanks, Alex.
Well,
all right, let's move on.
He's either snap and crackle because Mick's the only one who gets the pop.
Oh, sick burn.
Well, that's what Mick said in his promo. Mick said that in his promo.
No, he said, obviously, I get the pop.
Yeah.
He didn't say he was the only one who gets a pop.
Oh, obviously, I get the pop. Doesn't really sound like he's not saying both these guys get the pop as well, does it?
Not yet.
Yeah,
anyway, Nicolia also saying that the Aisha of 12 to 18 months ago wasn't ready. The Aisha of 2023 that's traveled and trained is ready now. Look, let's move on to the main event because it was a huge one, an absolute ladder war between the Pareja and Big Business, with Eli Theseus and Gabriel Eros becoming the new MCW Tag Team Champions after an absolutely sick Hades curse onto a ladder for Slex there to finish off the match. On top of this, ended with a massive brawl that is going to lead into a 5-on-5 fight to survive. I think it's going to be excellent stuff. And this match was great.
I do agree. I'm sorry. Yep. I'm just
at top to bottom. It was fantastic.
I'm working behind the scenes here, guys. Yeah. Like it was what it had to be. Like it crowned Pareja as they were already working their way up to being the tag team in MCW. Like they were already like setting themselves out that way. This was pretty much the crowning achievement. It took a while for them to get there because both Tommy and Slex were involved in programs like on a singles route. But now that they're here, we're going to see like who's going to step up and be the babyface tag team to try and take them down. Like it looks like they're trying to angle for natural classics again, which is okay. I would like there to be maybe BDE coming in. I would like it to be something like that.
I don't think it's going to be BDE soon because I think they'll want to give the Pareja a reign and then have BDE as faces take it off them, is the way it looks to me.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, though, I just think Naturals and Pareja have been done. And like in my head, I don't even know if they've had that many matches. But in my head, I look at it and I go, "That's been done. I've seen it." Nothing really excites me about seeing these four guys going at each other. It's not to say I don't like them as workers. I love the Pariah, and Natural Classics as a tag team are great. I just don't know if I want to see them again. Do you know what I mean?
I can agree. Yeah, it's definitely something we've seen before. But yeah, I think that
it was very worthy of a main event. Very worthy of a main event for an MCW show, and a packed MCW show. That's one thing I will say, is that the crowd were really, really involved in this show. They were really engaged pretty much for the whole night.
The crowd were louder than any MCW show I've seen in years. They were loud. They were there. They were vibrant. And they were a big part of the show, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that in recent history, we've enjoyed MCW shows, but there's been things that we've had major problems with. I feel like this, top to bottom, was a cracker. I think this is the best MCW show we've had in a while, personally.
Yep. Agreed. Interestingly, at the end, there was the big brawl, and it didn't quite come through, but the crowd were chanting very loudly for Delta.
For Delta, it came through.
Very loudly.
And obviously, since they're doing the Fight for Survive match, but Delta is having the match against Jarvis, that's probably not going to happen. But we are still waiting for a fifth person for the face team to be announced.
Yes, because Rocky said he wasn't wrestling. Dad can't wrestle.
So Dad can't wrestle. So I top to bottom, like, I think this is not just one of the best MCW shows in a while, but one of the most solid Australian wrestling shows I've seen in a while, and great to see a lot of Melbourne talent there, both from PCW and also out there at Mayhem. You know, just great to see. Loved it. Loved the show. Top marks.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if you want to catch it, it's on FITEtv, search for MCW. You can catch it for free if you've got a Fight Plus subscription. And speaking of subscriptions, make sure you subscribe to Wrestle Radio Australia. You can do it wherever you're getting this podcast, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, and you can give us a 5-star review. That goes and does some massive help for us. There is more that we have to talk about, and we will do it very soon. So stick around, because we'll be back right after this. And for those of you who are still here in our live stream, because we've got to give something special for Todd to cut out, right? We really appreciate you guys being here, first of all, everyone who's here watching live. And Todd, I'll let you introduce this, because this is something great.
And you don't know what it is. There's another reason why. Look, I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't really have time to go and look for something for us to do, to put up for the intermission. So this is basically the stuff that's going to run the pre-show for Saturday night's show. So it's basically all the promos that we've done leading into this Saturday night's Wide Bay show. So
that's September 23rd's Wide Bay Rise from the Ashes, live from the Broga Theatre.
That is correct, sir. Funny how you know that. So we're going to do that. We'll have a quick break, and then we'll be back after this, I guess.
Hola, Mitch Ryder. Mi nombre es Logan Pierce. And that's about all I got as far as Spanish goes, I'm afraid. Mitch Ryder! How are you doing, buddy? Here's the thing. September 23rd, Wide Bay Pro Wrestling Rise from the Ashes. You and I have been matched up. You, the once-in-a-generation athlete, the guy that's going to lead the country into the future, and me, the liability. Is the thing, though, to you, this might just be another match. Maybe, you string a couple wins together, you get back in the title picture. But for me, this is a big one. And I'm trying not to let it get to me, but I'm nervous. But if you're nervous about something, it means you care, right? I care a lot. I don't just do this pro wrestling thing because I think it's fun. I do this because I want to make something out of it. And a win over you, hell, even just a good showing against you. If I can push the once-in-a-generation athlete to its limits, who knows where I go from here. I need this. So, I ain't gonna come at you all serious. I ain't gonna make some snide remarks. I got no heat against you, brother. Instead, I'm just going to wish you good luck, and I will see you on Saturday.
CJ, as much as it pains me to admit, last time we wrestled, you beat me fair and square in the middle of the ring. Bosh. And since then, you've been training over in the UK with Marty Jones, you've gone interstate in Australia, and you've won titles. Guess what I've been doing? I've been winning titles right here. And this Saturday, you are not going to beat me again, because now I have my own championship. I have something to fight for, and I have a damn reason to stomp your head into the ground and keep my brute force championship. Here we go. Give me the honey, never left the legs. Here we go. We come in, you already know the rest. Here we go. We never settle cause we know it best. Here we go. Who wanna test? Leave you out of we back, baby. I told y'all it's coming back.
Hi, Bay Pro Wrestling fans, it's me, Heath Stevens, and you know me. Down dog! This is mine! You know it is!
Little interesting stat about myself is that when it comes to top tier and the members of that incredible group, they can't beat me. Mitch Ryder couldn't do it twice. Solomon Blackwell, try as he might, couldn't do it. And Tim Hayden, Crusader, one of the best professional wrestlers that I've had the privilege to ever watch and be fortunate enough to call up here. We've never wrestled. There's clearly a reason for that. It's because the two before him couldn't. So Tim, do you want to prove that you really are the best? This is your best way to do it. The next Wide Bay show, I'm coming, and I'm taking that belt. See you then.
Title has recruited that young kid Toa.
No shame. Toa was one of our most promising stepchildren.
He had a lot of promise. Did not know how to tie his shoes though. I'm a bit worried about that.
We'll deal with that shoe thing later.
But we have enough bullies as it is down in Wide Bay. We don't need another one.
We really cannot let Toa be influenced by those bully title boys. How are you and I gonna deal with Title and Toa? I think there's only one solution. Which one of our stepkids is the most like a stepdad themselves?
So, what you're saying is that we need 3 stepdads.
I'm thinking we need to get as close to 3 stepdads as possible. I don't know. Is there anyone that comes to mind?
I'm thinking maybe we get the undeniable Bob Bishop.
Ah, a good bet.
That's a good stepdad.
That's a good step bet.
And we can't let Bobby Bishop be bullied by Title either.
Absolutely. Let's get you down.
Here you got a little problem with Title. Here there's Title boys bullying you.
Couple bullies getting you down. Is that it?
We have a little bit of a proposition for you, 'cause we've had to deal with a bully or two in our time.
It's true. We kind of know how to handle them at this point. Here's the proposition, Bobby. Stepdad Chris, Stepdad Charlie, and our good stepson Bobby Bishop. Stand up to those bully titles.
Those bullies Title. It's okay. This is not an English class. This is... Realistically, we don't want it to be, but it's a fight. We don't like seeing you treated this way, and we're willing to become, instead of the stepdads, the stepbobs. I think that's a yes. I think he's keen. I think he's keen to be.
All right,
Would you like
Bob.
a sip? Would you like a sip, Bob? Robert? Robiny? Robesco? Roberto?
It's okay. He's going through something.
He's going through something. That's cool.
We'll see you there, Bobby. Okay? Chin up, kid.
Chin up.
It's only going to get better from here.
Okay, we can bully them too.
All right, see you there.
We can bully them.
There we go. And I'm unmuted. Yeah, I love what's going on up at Wide Bay. I feel like if I wasn't ring announcing up there, I would rave about it so much more. It feels weird to try and promote it, but like genuinely it is one of my favorite promotions by a long way.
Sorry about that. just doing work back here. Don't remember me. Oh dear.
Yeah.
No, it was good. I enjoyed the stepdad. I enjoy them. Hey.
Yeah, it's a very fun gimmick. And I think that Bobby's a great fit. That's going to be a great match. But I'm not sure. Had we previously announced that Slex was going to be at the November show for Wide Bay?
We did it on the show. Didn't you? I wasn't there. They didn't play. Fuck, production's going to get killed.
Wait, did we? I don't recall.
Oh my! You were there. I wasn't.
I've got a terrible memory, Todd. I don't know. Trusting my memory is not the way to go. But yeah, Hall Brawl is going to be in November, and that is going to be an absolutely huge show. As you just saw there, Slex is going to be there. It's always good to get someone, a big interstater, to show up for one of these shows, and I think Hall Brawl is going to be absolutely gargantuan. Yeah, Keanu saying great promos for the build-up. Some of those guys, and it's so self-directed as well, those guys really do. It's a great example of how much these people want to be successful. They're going out of their way to push what is happening on the show on their own social media, in their own spaces. Really committed talent.
Yeah, I will say for the stepdad thing, that's sort of something that I kind of helped them a little bit with, like just little touches. Like that promo, for instance, I said to Dink, I was like, why don't you add like Candle After? and we'll make it seem more like a sitcom, that you guys are in a sitcom more than you are just a normal promo. That's why I put the Channel 7 chyron up at the start, so it looked like it was coming back from an ad. Because I love that shit. I like that goofy shit I love.
While we're off air, I'll talk a little bit about the stepdads, because I really enjoy them. I think that both of those guys are so naturally funny, and they both get what it's like to be a comedy wrestler. One of the things that I say to them is that they, and I think this is more Dink than it is Charlie D, they really don't want to do stuff Dan the Dad does over in the US.
No.
Thanks, Tobias, in the chat mentioning that Slex's promo was played. Tobias with a better memory than me. Thanks, Toby. But yeah, I think that I understand that, but at the same time, you know, all the people who are at a Wide Bay show aren't the people who are going online watching Dan the Dad. And I think that clearly they've got such a good handle on what makes that gimmick funny, that taking away bits that are funny and entertaining because someone in the US does them, I don't think is going to serve them as well as being as naturally funny and charismatic as they are in those characters.
Yeah, I think it's more they just didn't want to be carbon copies, which is fair enough.
No, but they're also not. I love and so Geoff, you wouldn't have seen the stepdads, but they do. It's such a little touch. They don't tag. You might have seen that they don't tag. They give a firm handshake. Like little shit like that, I just think is spectacular.
They give a little pat on the back and say, "Well done, kids. You did the job good."
That's right. They do. They do start the lawnmower to walk someone around, and
my whole idea for all their promos too was like you're sitting down your stepson or stepdaughter and having a talk with them. That's the whole idea of the promo. So it doesn't matter who you're versing. It's like, look, mate, your mum and I have had a chat. We don't like the way you've been lately. You're a better person than that.
We're not disappointed. We're just a little bit sad.
Yeah. It's like the one thing that they didn't.
Your father.
Yeah. Like the one thing that they didn't do was like legitimately, I wanted them to like argue with Bobby and have Bobby's finishing line going, "You're not my real dads," and run out of the room. The only thing they didn't do, I just wanted them to work up to that, like "You're not my dad. Come on, mate. It's okay. We'll help you out here. We're going like, "You're not my real dads," and run away.
I did see the beginning of it, and I was quite amused by it. But I did have to make a quick phone call. So thanks for your patience there, guys.
All good, and we will return to talking about what's going on in the world in about 2 seconds. Hello and welcome back to Making Chicken Salad, the Wrestle Radio Australia podcast, where we talk about everything that's going on around the world of wrestling. We've talked a lot about what's happening in Australia with WWE coming, with the Aussies in the PWA 500, and with the MCW results. But, you know, it turns out America has wrestling as well. Did you guys know this? Have you heard about this?
What?
I know. There's a thing called, I think it's called AEW. It's spelled AEW. I think it's AEW.
Ew. It's ew.
Yeah. They had Dynamite Grand Slam, which happened a couple of hours ago, I guess, as we're recording this. So there's some huge results actually coming out of it. Eddie Kingston.
Let's just give a spoiler warning. If you haven't watched it yet, just turn off for like 10 minutes and we should be fine.
Other than the bit that I just said. Yeah, so spoiler warning here. A couple of title changes here. One of the big ones being Eddie Kingston defeating Claudio Castagnoli in a title versus title match to become the new Ring of Honor Heavyweight Champion, which just felt so weird to happen on a Dynamite. Like, I know it's Grand Slam, I know, but didn't you just have two massive shows, and now we get to the climax of this Kingston Castagnoli thing? Here?
Yeah.
On a Wednesday?
On a fucking Wednesday. Don't steal my catchphrase, mate.
Sorry,
you don't hear me going, for me.
I haven't said it yet, this podcast. We also had Chris Jericho defeat Sammy Guevara. Sammy joining with Don Callis after the match. Saraya defeating Toni Storm to retain the AEW Women's World Championship, as well as MJF defeating Samoa Joe to retain the AEW World Championship. One wrestler who did not retain was Jon Moxley, losing to Rey Fenix, who is the new AEW International Champion. And I don't understand why Phoenix couldn't have just defeated Orange Cassidy. But I guess Jon Moxley has to have a Grand Slam.
No. Apparently there was an audible because Moxley knocked himself silly.
Ah, that's interesting to hear. I know that the finish of the match, it did look like there may have been a bit of a bonk on the head for Mox.
And they wanted to just go to the end. Moxley can win it back in a week. I mean, but that's why.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about that change is it does make, in hindsight, Orange Cassidy's run with the title more impressive, that he was able to defend it and defend it and defend it, and Mox gets to his first defense and loses it to Phoenix. And then if Phoenix is going to lose very quickly back to Mox, then we get to say, look, this title jumps around, but man, Orange Cassidy was a great champion.
Yeah, but where is he?
He's tagging
Orange
with
Cassidy.
Hook.
He's tagging with Hook in a tag tournament.
Oh, okay.
They were eating Doritos.
I remain correct.
It was. I like Orange Cassidy, and I understand that Hook is too cool for school. I don't know. Did you see this promo, Todd, where they were standing backstage, literally?
I actually didn't mind it. I actually didn't mind it because it fit both characters.
Yeah, it does. They were standing there sharing a bag of Doritos, and one of them goes, "Want a tag?" And the other one goes, "Yep." And that was it. So now they're in a tag team tournament.
That's silly fun. Oh, look, I've heard this was a great Dynamite. I haven't yet watched it. I will watch it after the show tonight. But I've heard this is one of the best Dynamites they've done in a long time.
Oh, because it's a pay-per-view quality Dynamite, like a pay-per-view quality show. When you look at the lineup, the one thing you did skip over is that Jericho and Sammy recreated the HBK Jericho WrestleMania thing for Sammy to turn on Jericho and join up with Don Callis. So that happened.
I've also heard that Toni Storm is like the pops are getting louder and louder and louder.
This new gimmick, I'm like, as the weeks go on, I'm falling more and more in. The only thing I hated, the only thing I don't like, is that she's got this great thing, and they brought a T-shirt out, and they fucked up her catchphrase on the T-shirt.
On the shirt.
Yeah.
Have you seen the shirt?
No, but I've heard it.
The catchphrase is chin up, tits out.
Tits out.
Watch for the shoe.
Yeah.
There's no watch for the shoe on the shirt. It's like part of her gimmick. You fucking use that.
Yeah. Yeah. But she just went in this direction, and I'll be honest, a month ago I was going, I don't know where this is going, but I'm curious. Now I'm going, I don't know where this is going, and it's fucking great.
She got a new entrance tonight, which is all in black and white.
Yes, yeah. I've heard that.
She did the vignettes she did with RJ City were really good too.
RJ can make anything gold, so.
Yeah, he's really good.
Great.
He is really
just
good.
great.
Tim Wilkes in the chat says, well deserved for Eddie, Sammy, and Jericho. Channeling Y2J versus HBK WrestleMania 19. Everything else I could take or leave, but we'll say the set was much better than usual and should be used every week. I don't know why they seemingly don't put as much effort into the sets anymore. But I guess when you're touring around, it is what it is, right?
It also separates a Grand Slam from a regular show, a regular week Dynamite. Like if you did that for every week, then it doesn't stand out, it doesn't become special. I didn't overly like the post-match HBK Jericho spot because it's been done. Like stop copying shit you've done years ago. Like it's a different thing if you are doing something like on a local show. Like for a while there, I was ripping straight from like 1980s Crockett storylines because no one's fucking seen them in years. Majority of everyone who watched that show will have seen that WrestleMania. So they go, okay, they're just doing the WrestleMania spot. It's not. It was original when he did it the first time. If that makes sense.
I do agree with you. There was a match. There was a Wrestle Rock match, and Wrestle Rock is, no, it's wrestling, but no, it's not. It's extreme entertainment. It was Drunk Uncle Beach against Lockie Hendricks. Mikey put it on YouTube for a while, and it was great because it was like all these WrestleMania spots just linked together. But it worked because it was the stupidity of the two of them. And, I'm Sorry, I Love You was in there. And all these iconic WrestleMania bits were in there. But I agree.
It wasn't the guy that was actually in the WrestleMania moment. Like Jericho was in that moment. He was just the other guy.
I don't want to see
him. Poetic justice.
It's
just a repeat.
Yeah, I don't want to see him paying tribute to himself, which is essentially what he's doing. But the other issue I have with this show is apparently Eddie Kingston and Claudio shook hands at the end, as Claudio agreed in the pre-match. Then Samoa Joe shook hands with MJF at the end. Tony, we can't all be friends. This is wrestling. Let them fight. Let it mean something. I
think if there's one thing you should work out is that Tony wants everyone to be friends. If there's ever an argument or a fight or a thing, it's because you don't want to be my friend anymore. Roderick Strong, Adam Cole, doesn't want to be my friend.
And look, this career is not a wrestle. This career is not a wrestle struggle. This career is a wrestle dream. AEW Wrestle Dream is on October.
Hang on, I've got one more thing to say.
Sorry, keep talking then.
I was going to say, I randomly watched an Ishii Goto match from 2014 last night, right? And they knocked the ever-loving fucking piss out of each other. They didn't have to shake hands afterwards to show respect. You don't always have to do that. Be more subtle.
The Claudio thing was in the storyline, which is fair enough. The Samoa Joe thing, like he's a heel everywhere. So why not just leave him be the heel?
Yeah.
But also, isn't a huge part of it that we're doing Code of Honor? Like not to defend what's happening here. Yeah, but the Ring of Honor titles are on them and they're getting defended, right?
Yeah, but that wasn't the MJF thing. Wasn't a Ring of Honor defense?
No, it wasn't. The MJF thing's nonsense.
That's what I'm saying.
But the two that we're talking about are people who have Ring of Honor titles.
Yeah, but it doesn't. When it's not for the Ring of Honor title, then the Ring of Honor TV title, that Code of Honor doesn't exist. It's an AEW match. The one with the Kingston and Claudio.
Guess what? WrestleMania 19 doesn't exist during an episode of Dynamite. They're still referencing it.
Yeah, you're being obtuse with that, mate. You're trying to say
being obtuse at all.
You are being obtuse. Like you're saying that they should follow these rules when they're not in a match with that rule.
I'm not saying they should follow the rules. I'm saying the
reason you literally just said it.
To Ring of Honor.
And he's a fucking heel, so he shouldn't do it when he doesn't have to.
I agree. I said that it's a reference. I'm not saying that it's a good thing that it's a reference. I'm saying it's a reference.
I don't even think it was a reference. I just think that they did it because fucking they wanted to do it at the end of the match. I honestly, the Sammy Claudio thing, the Eddie Claudio thing, works perfectly because he refused to shake his hand and refused to do it in all the other matches. And this was to finally put the cap on that. He finally did it. He finally shook his hand. There was no reason for Samoa Joe to shake MJF's hand.
No, there wasn't.
Because what's he going to do now? Go to Ring of Honor and be a face?
No. Anyway, Wrestle Dream. It's on October 8th. We've got 4 matches on the card so far and one that's heavily rumored. We've got Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. as kind of a headlining match because that truly is a Wrestle Dream. We've got the AEW World Tag Team Championships on the line. FTR defending against Aussie Open. We've got Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page. And we've also got a match for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship with Better Than You, Bay defending against the Righteous, Vincent and Dutch. I guess I'm glad to see the Righteous actually getting a big match, right?
It's funny because I thought that they only just sort of debuted in AEW. The Righteous.
But were they not around in Ring of Honor?
They were around in Ring of Honor, but they sort of like all the vignettes and that sort of meant not meant, but sort of like alluded to the fact that they were going away from that now and into AEW.
Yes. It
And
did.
to have them sort of, it's like two steps forward, like one step forward, two steps back sort of deal.
It's also really weird because we all kind of agreed that it seemed like it was going to be the Kingdom next. And then we had this big 4-way for the number 1 contendership where the Kingdom were there. And righteous.
Exactly. Because, like, unless you've got the ball, you can't drop it.
Yep. I guess that's true.
Like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. What makes even more sense and less sense to me is that this is a Wrestle Dream, which is a tribute to Antonio Inoki, and at the moment there is not one Japanese wrestler on the card.
Yep.
Unless they move to like the rumored Takeshita Ibushi match, unless that is actually going to get made and put on that card. And let's face it, I don't think Inoki would be the biggest fan of Ibushi.
Ibushi right now, yeah.
I just don't think he would be.
For anyone who is not keeping up with this, what we're talking about is Ibushi basically announcing that New Japan Pro Wrestling was in league with organized crime and that he didn't want to work with them anymore because they're all criminals. More or less is the short version of that.
Ixnay.
Yeah. That was the opinion of Lachlan Albert and not the opinion of Jesse.
That was the opinion of Kota Ibushi that I was attempting to... That was not Lachlan Albert's opinion at all.
We all know it's true.
If you're looking for the guy to shoot, he's the one in the middle. Okay.
No. Japanese organized crime is actually very good for Japan. Always has been. Moving on.
I mean, it's in the title, organized.
Yeah, that's right.
Wrestle Radio Australia cares. Anyway, let's keep going.
Let's talk about what's going on over with the WWE at the moment. According to WrestleNomics, the SmackDown opening quarter with The Rock, Pat McAfee, and Austin Theory averaged over 2.8 million viewers, and then it dropped to around 2.5 million for the rest of the show. And on social media, footage of Rock's return received over 100 million views in just one day.
That's insane.
I did not know. I flew that day, so I obviously missed SmackDown. And I got home and I was like, all right, I'll watch SmackDown. Put it on. Didn't know any spoilers and literally went, holy fuck, the second that music hits. And another one, the second the guy walked out.
Because... and like, also, like as a like point of thing, I was traveling as well. We went up to Townsville that day for the QWA show. So we didn't see it, but we'd sort of heard about it. Then my wife messages me at like 6:30 saying, The Rock's back in WWE because it was on the news. Like
Here's
it made international news that he showed up at SmackDown.
Here's the thing for both Rock and Cena. They've got nothing to do right now.
There's a big line that they have to go around.
Why the fuck not?
That's for me. I just bloody said it.
Yes.
Damn it.
Yeah.
This is why wrestlers need a union. Because what we're seeing here is that wrestling's got no union. And at the moment, it's so important for actors and writers to be part of their union, and the wrestlers can't do anything when something goes belly up.
You know what? I have zero problems with The Rock doing this because The Rock is donating millions to the Actors Guild to help actors get into. I have no. It's the same as the late night hosts. I don't know if you know
doing their
this,
podcast with the money going to the people that work for them.
And Colbert and Fallon and Kimmel are doing a gig together for late night television stars who aren't working. Brilliant.
Oliver's been touring his stand-up at the moment. Great stuff.
Yeah, he proceeds to them. Amazing.
Yeah, and so can't respect that stuff highly enough. Let me be clear that I am not complaining about The Rock here. I think that, the fact that he is actively supporting a striking union is wonderful. But I think that right now we can see the difference between a group of people who has a union and a group that doesn't. And I think that's important to point out.
The
Anyway,
opinions of Lachlan Albert are his and his alone.
that time it was mine. I'll take that one. Yeah. Also, NXT.
Quite selective, aren't you?
On NXT on Tuesday night also averaged 824,000 viewers on USA, slightly down 3.1% from last week. But as a point of comparison, Wednesday's Dynamite averaged 888,000. So we're within 10% there between NXT and Dynamite. So there's viewership, baby.
It doesn't say there that Rampage was watched by a total of 8 people this week. So, you know, it is moving up. Lots of hope there for AEW.
But it does say, it does say something when really all that they had on that NXT show was Becky Lynch and Dom from the main roster. And they came within striking distance of beating Dynamite numbers, which is shocking when you think about it.
Speaking of Becky Lynch, what do we think of Becky Lynch NXT champion?
I think
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the way they did the open challenge. They could have had 100 of the girls on the roster, and again they trot out Natalia. I ain't got a problem with Natalia. She's a great worker. She's the boat, but there are other people. There are other guys. There wasn't a rumor that it was going to be somebody else, and then she got pulled and put on main event. I can't remember who it was though. It was
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. It was another girl, and I cannot remember her name. Tegan Knox was apparently going to answer the open challenge, and something happened, and she got moved from that to main event.
The girl with the worst nickname. But yeah, let's move on. Endeavor merged successfully with UFC, WWE, now under one banner known as TKO Holdings. Nick Khan mentioning this could mean bundling of UFC, WWE events in certain cities. 100 people, mainly office and production staff, have been made redundant as a result of this merger. That's business, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you... Go on.
Todd.
No, go on.
Apparently a lot of the actual talent, in-ring talent, is very upset about the production staff particularly being made redundant, because obviously they traveled with them and they know them. And I get it, but it doesn't present a good picture to your staff if 100 people around you have just been made redundant.
No, look, and I should be clear about what I'm saying, that it's never a nice thing when people get made redundant. It's awful and horrible. And you're ready with that disclaimer that this is Lachlan's opinions and not the stuff. The problem's capitalism, baby. The problem is that the people at the top are trying to drain as much money from the regular Joe Schmoes as they can. And the less people that they can make do more work to get that done, the better. Right? So now that we've got 2 companies, we don't need people doing the same job for 2 companies. Just make one work twice as hard. It'll be great. But that is what it is. Speaking of releases, Grizzled Young Vets. Rumor is they've been asking for a release for a while now, and they've officially been released. Especially shocking after they did a whole thing of winning a Loser Leaves NXT match a little while ago with Diamond Mine. But I think that was a great way to play with the fact that everyone is so smart now. We all knew that it was going on, and so they went, oh yeah, Loser Leaves NXT. And we all went, oh, that's how they're getting Grizzled Young Vets out. And then they won. So I think it's interesting to see WWE playing with the way people know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And look, if they wanted to be, I think what we might see a bit more in the future now is that when people want to be released, they're just going to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Like for the most part, unless you're indispensable, unless you're like a Roman or the Usos or something like that. If you're an NXT talent and you want to be released, I dare say you'll probably get your release if you want it. Because
even lower card Raw and SmackDown talent will probably, And I mean, there's a few wrestlers that you don't think of that are indispensable, like Kofi, Creed, Woods, and Langston. They're indispensable. You cannot lose those guys, because you lose those guys, and AEW will snap them up.
You know what though? what will they do with them? Like, I hate to say it, but look at bloody...
What they do with them is terrible, but they'll snap them up.
There hasn't been a hell of a lot of people, like undercard talent, that AEW have taken from, well, not taken, but have signed from WWE, who have really made a mark in AEW.
No, absolutely.
Really. When you by and large, like there's been a couple, but like I don't count like Moxley, I don't count Jericho in that group because they're made. They're made. I count like
Keith
I
Lee.
can't even remember his name. Thank you, Keith Lee at the moment. Like
was that
it's taken him. Yeah, it was. It was. It's taken him how long to start like showcasing Swerve Strickland?
Mm.
It's like there were guys that they first signed when like I'd seen people online going, "Oh, WWE slept on these guys. They're going to be massive stars," and we just never saw them again.
Yeah.
So
No,
like,
Speaking of what will they do with them, WWE is reportedly working on a high-priority main roster creative for Jade Cargill, who's expected to report to the WWE Performance Center with her AEW contract expired. Apparently, Jade has had some very pleasant things to say about AEW in the process of not renewing her contract. Apparently, they really put a good effort into giving her a good send-off. And we'll be seeing her in WWE soon, is reports. On top of that, we've got the latest WWE tryouts happening, including former MLW star Richard Holiday, who people may remember as a tag team champion along with MJF, or for the gimmick where he had a Bluetooth headset. And that was like the whole gimmick.
So he's really good. I'm a big fan
of Richard Holiday. Like, don't take that as an insult. He's awesome. And on top of that, like, just to celebrate a little bit, he's announced that his Hodgkin's lymphoma is in remission as of June. So, hooray! As far as cancers go, Hodgkin's lymphoma is, if you're going to have a cancer, that's one of the ones. If you're going to have a lymphoma, especially, that's one of the ones you want to have. But you don't want to have cancer.
Okay.
So
can we get Lachlan back every week?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck you're on, but it's amazing.
School holidays is what I'm on, baby. Let's go.
Look, if you're gonna have cancer, that's the one you want, kids. What the hell?
Here's a selection of cancers before you. The tryouts are taking place this week in Orlando.
Cancer in WA right now. I'm not sending him this one. This one.
Is it Hodgkin's lymphoma? That's the one he wants. Brogan Finlay was announced by PWI Insider, and also trying out from OVW and the Netflix series The Wrestlers is Hollywood Haley J. Good luck to people trying out.
Yeah. If you've seen The Wrestlers, I don't think Hollywood Haley J is quite gonna make it. She's like, I like her, not that much. Like, that talk about if you want to bring issues into your locker room, that's someone who you'd want to bring in.
Yeah, I think for the show The Wrestlers, she's a star. She's great, and that's probably why WWE are looking at her. Let's be honest. But as you say, issues. She's got more issues than Lachlan does running his mouth tonight. So I think
is that impossible, honestly.
Yeah, no, she's got more fucking issues than TV Week, and like there's no way who's someone who actively smoked joints on film before shows is going to get signed by the WWE. They just won't do it.
No. I mean, the closest they'll come is RVD or Matt Riddle, where it's all like, we know they're on weed, and it's funny because, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Keanu also mentioned that I reckon Wardlow might, if his contract finishes, that is a rumor that's going around at the moment, that he might look to jumping if and when that happens. So it is going to be interesting to see now. Very interesting to see coming up, because now it's coming to the point now where that certain talents have been in AEW long enough that they can sort of see how they're being treated by AEW and might want to try WWE, even though like WWE is painted the way it's painted generally. They still might say, well, Jesus, Cody did quite well. Do you know what I mean?
Especially now Trips is in charge of creative, because they're not going to WWE of 5 years ago. WWE now is a much better place than it was 5 years ago.
Look, I have no basis of knowledge in this, but I give Vince less than a year, and something's going to happen, and he'll get booted from that company.
I think he's going to die.
No,
well, apparently at the all-staff meeting this week about the 100 people who were made redundant, he had it like a walking stick. So
he just come off a back surgery.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, but that didn't explain the do-rag.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the do-rag is another thing.
Oh my lord!
Don't trust people that wear do-rags.
Yeah, no. I think that something is going to happen with this grand jury investigation and something like that, and they're going to have to let him go because he doesn't have the protection of what he had before. He doesn't have that he is.
No, that's true.
Yeah, but we've been saying this for 14 months at this point, haven't we?
Yeah, but that's how the justice system works, mate. And now he hasn't got, like 14 months ago, he doesn't have the protection he had 14 months ago. He doesn't have a board that's behind him. Like half of that board now is Ari Emanuel. And if Ari sees something that could damage his stock price, I'm sorry, Vince, I love you, but you're out.
Yep, it'll get shoveled away with the rest of the chicken shit. Speaking of chicken shit, let's do it, baby. Todd, have you got something that you hated over this past couple of weeks?
Yeah, just let me pull it up because I actually did something for this one. I actually wrote down. Rick Knox, the AEW referee. Like he completely blew. Well, not completely blew, but pretty much blew the finish of that Moxley match. Like here's a tip for anyone who's watching this, who is a referee on the indie scene, or just a referee, fucking full stop. Just call the match. Call your count. Just do it. If they don't kick out, that's their fault. Just because as soon as you pull up short and somebody leaves their shoulders on the mat, you've exposed the match. And Rick Knox has got form for dumb shit like this. Like I know he's a established veteran referee, but I don't know. Have you seen Dynamite this week when he did it? You haven't.
I've seen
you
the clip.
guys haven't seen. You've seen the clip. Like how bad did that look?
It's bad.
Yeah, and I want to show you this one because I actually have footage. So I want to show you.
Look, if he's going to do it to someone, at least it's to Ray Phoenix, who's been in AAA for a long time. If you want to know about bad 3 counts, that's the place to. I'm not going to say anything like I said before, but AAA's full of them.
Okay, so here's something from a while ago. All right, this is Rick Knox, the referee.
By the way, if you're listening to this on audio, the place where you can watch our videos like this, you can do it on Facebook at Wrestle Radio Australia, or go to twitch.tv/WrestleRadioAU, and you'll be able to see whatever we're watching when we're watching stuff.
And what you can't see here is Alex Reynolds is out cold.
The Bucks, of all these teams here, with all the ballyhoo, all the fanfare, the Bucks need a win here. Yes. Psychologically, they really need a win here.
Rick look anywhere near concerned about this guy?
Butcher going to
hasn't gone anywhere near him.
Nice teamwork.
There it is. That's it. That's it. We're going to get it.
No one's touched him. He's got his hands in.
Again. They've had us 3 times. They've saved it.
And normally it would be a disqualification right now. Right? But there's no disqualification.
He's still not even knowing where he is.
The Young Bucks are
He
persistent.
hasn't even gone to
Certainly
check
are.
him.
The Bucks sent to the outside.
They're desperate right now.
Now he's checking.
Low bridge on Butcher. They got to figure out how to get a tag.
So
yeah, but not for long.
No,
it's an issue. It's an issue. I think that referees, take care of your workers.
I've always said to to guys that work as refs on our shows, call the thing straight down the line. Like, if you're not supposed to see something, you're not supposed to see it. That's a different thing.
Yes.
But pinfalls, just call them. I would rather them look like dickheads than you.
Yep.
If they want to not kick out of a pin and finish their match, that's on them.
Other than like known stupidity, referees should basically be refereeing it like they're referees of an actual sport, right?
Exactly right.
If someone does something wrong, if someone doesn't kick out, you count the 3 because that's your job.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you know what's worse too, Alex? Because Alex Fahart said, yeah, that's straight up negligence. Weird that no one backstage has noticed and sent people out. I have a real feeling that wasn't a live thing. That was a tape rampage. So they could have stopped tape. And it was back when they did that was the pandemic tapings as well.
It was Daly's Place, yeah.
Yeah. So there were no fans there. You could have stopped that match. Quite up. Never played it. It's just that's stuff like that really gets on my nerves. Like that, because that's just flat up terrible wrestling. Terrible refereeing. Aubrey Edwards is terrible, but not to the point of that. But anyway, that was my chicken shit. Referees, do your jobs properly. You know what I mean?
Put Bryce Remsburg on every match.
Yep.
Jeff, what's your call? Chicken shit.
Well, obviously, we mentioned them last time, but DMDU have still not done anything to pay people back. I know you're laughing at me, Todd. Rebel, the amazing Ree, is tweeting every day asking whether they've paid or not. It's great.
Ree up to day 15 as of 2 hours ago, asking if DMDU have paid back their fans.
Day 15 at the moment. But the thing that really has upset me over the last couple of weeks are the omissions from the PWI 500. There are seriously people who are missing. Naito is mentioned. Other wrestlers should be higher. Seth is amazing. Like, there's no doubt Seth is one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. 1, 2, and 3, they are interchangeable spots. They're all great. Although apparently when Moxley read that he was only number 3, he got so upset he just had to blade himself. But I think that it's those that are missing more than anything else. Naito should absolutely be in the PWI 500. He's had a great few years. Sure, he's not the champ, but he's had some.
To be clear, like, I think the reason that Naito is not in it is because everyone from 20 down assumed that they'd already covered Naito and they didn't have to think about it. And then they forgot to put him in the top 20, right? It's not like they don't think he's in the top 500. It was straight
absolutely. Up but I think, you talk about, like Todd just rightly so spoke about referees doing their job better. This is the leading list of the year. Wrestlers dying out for the year on being part of this list. And I think that's incredibly disrespectful to Naito to not have him on there. That's all.
Okay, I've got another chicken shit, and I'm not going to mention who this chicken shit is of, but I'm just going to say there was an ad in Facebook Marketplace about fluorescent tube removal. Now I'm going to read this ad.
No.
You. Yes.
Really?
Have you not?
Really?
Have you not seen this? Have you not seen this? Oh my
this
Lord.
Is amazing. This is amazing.
Okay. Fluorescent tube removal. Disposing of fluorescent tubes can be a timely and costly measure. Broken tubes release toxic chemicals and gases into the environment, and tip runs and transfer station trips can be inconvenient and costly. We will pick up any fluorescent tubes for free. Pick up anywhere in Metro Melbourne. As long as the tube are unbroken, does not matter if they are not working, and we'll dispose of them safely and responsibly.
Who wrote that?
I'm not going to say, mate. I'm not going to say.
Fair enough.
I don't want to make a smash hit himself.
I'm going to have trouble.
There was a Facebook ad for somebody who was selling fluorescent tubes.
Yeah, I did see that one too. and then specifically said who they weren't selling those tubes to.
Oh boy.
And the beat goes on.
Oh man, oh man. All right, I'm gonna do a 2-for-1 here. Here's my chicken shit, and I'm gonna take it straight into my chicken salad. I understand that Grand Slam is not a normal episode of television.
Amen, brother.
I get it, right? It's a fucking Wednesday night. How long has this Claudio and Kingston feud been going for? Because I want to say 15 years. I want to say it's 15, right? Ish. It's definitely more than a decade. And finally Claudio wins against finally Kingston wins against someone that he has hated, struggled against since bloody Chikara on a random Wednesday night. Fucking bullshit. Put it on a big show. You got Wrestle Dream coming up. Put it on bloody Wrestle Dream. Come on. Just like, if you're going to do something big, do it in a big place. And then, because you just had 2 massive shows in a row where very little happened. So don't expect me to go out and watch your massive shows if you're not going to put anything on them. And then on a bloody Wednesday night, you're going to have the conclusion of a 15-year in the making feud. Chicken salad. God damn, it's good to see Eddie Kingston with a belt. Good on him. Love that boy. He deserves it. You can see how happy it makes him to be champion. Bloody love it. One in each hand. Him having a New Japan title belt warms my heart in a way that it's difficult to describe. And now you add, he is a world heavyweight champion to that. Bloody superb. I love to see it. Chicken salad. Todd, what made you happy?
Well, you kind of stole mine. My chicken salad was the Eddie and Claudio match. Not where it was in the timeline of things, but the match itself was really, really good. Like Tim Wilkes is correct. It had more to do with the location, Eddie in New York. Exactly. That's exactly what it was. More location than it was, I guess, occasion.
Yeah.
Why they couldn't have done or worked their way to have a Ring of Honor show in New York? They could have done that.
Yeah. How long was this match specifically built for? Because I don't really remember seeing it advertised. You know.
I will say that AEW did a hell of a job in the last week moving tickets to get them, because it was looking quite bleak heading into this week ticket wise. But I think they nearly got 10,000 there, which was they could actually show. Yeah. So but yeah, that was my chicken salad. It was a hell of a match, and it's one that will hopefully be on YouTube sooner rather than later. And it was a match I was actually involved in this past weekend. Tim Hayden and Mitch Ryder against Kazuo Fuchida and Robbie Eagles.
I cannot wait to see this match.
It was it was one of the best matches I've seen, like Tim and Mitch have. It was really, really good. And I know that Robbie was really happy with it at the end of the night as well. So to see the growth in those guys and to see how well they did was really, really good. And to the crowd reactions were really, really good. Like it was one of those times where you know yourself, Lachlan and Geoff, when you watch a match and a team burns the hot tag, and when by the time they get to the hot tag, it's more of a
it's like if you'd done that 3 minutes ago, we would have been there with you.
Exactly. My I have not heard a hot tag pop like that in a long time. It was huge when it went off. And I was so very happy for the boys. They did such a good job. I think I can put a post up. I was that proud of them. I stepped out of the gimmick for a minute and just I can't speak more highly of how well they did. And I'm really, really proud. and that's
Alex
a match
Fireheart
when it
in
comes
the
out,
chat.
please see it.
Alex Fireheart saying, my chicken salad was attending the QWA show Spring Breakdown this weekend gone. First wrestling show I've been to since one in 2021. And as Todd is saying, Top Tier versus TMT DK was easily the match of the night. The crowd had been sort of loud prior, but that match was easily the loudest that crowd was all night. Yeah.
And to say, and also going into that match, that crowd didn't know who the hell either of us really were. They knew Robbie a little bit, I think, but they didn't know who we were. They knew Tim, because Tim had been up there, but last time Tim was up there, he was like this hippie gimmick. So, like, they didn't know who we were. They didn't know who Robbie and Kazai were. And going in, we were a little worried that they would cheer us just for the fact that we were the Queensland team. But luckily, everything worked exactly the way we wanted to. And just such a good match. I can't speak more highly of all four of those guys in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, praising Robbie Eagles at this point is ridiculous because we all know exactly how good he is, and I think all three of us here know how much of a nice guy he is, and the respect that I have for him is absolutely immense. Fujita is clearly a rising star, and I cannot speak highly enough about the Top Tier boys. They are so like we were saying, and I know you kind of mentioned this with the PWI 500, Todd. Some of the names on there, and this is not to disrespect any of the names that have made the PWI 500. Absolutely not, because everyone works their ass off, right? There are names on that list, fairly high up that list, where I would say both Tim Hayden and Mitch Ryder wrestle circles around them and have more charisma than them, and they are just the total package. They are the absolute total package. Alex Fireheart in the chat said, I was talking to Robbie later in the night, and someone who'd supported QWA since day one came up to Robbie and Fujita and was like, that's the best fucking match QWA has ever had.
That's good.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me at all. That I was very close to flying to Townsville for that one match.
That's what I did. I mean, I was in it, but
you were in it, and I wouldn't have been. But you know, it is what it is. Geoff, did you get to do a chicken salad there? No,
not yet. I've got two. Firstly, a few weeks ago I shouted out Samantha Irving for the great work she does. I put in our chat a Facebook video of her doing the Chelsea Green bit. That still makes me giggle. Green. It makes me giggle every time I watch it. It's great. The other one, and he's a bit of a quiet achiever, but it's referee Rick Knox for AEW. He's just, no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Hang on a second.
I'm joking.
Go ahead, mate. That's better.
Geoff, I can't hear you for some reason. Something must have happened.
That's so much better.
Thank you. No, it's actually Jarvis. My chicken salad is Jarvis and Jarvis's work at MCS. And as I said, seeing him, we said goodnight to each other because we know each other a little bit, but seeing him just walking down the street with both belts over his shoulder, still playing that shit heel role, just fantastic. He's got a great future now as a heel. And in a few years, he's going to be the biggest baby face because he's just got that character down. He's just great. And I think that, it's great and exciting to see someone with a huge future who's amazing at being a shit heel. And interestingly enough, the only match announced so far, to my knowledge, for Renegade the Wrestling Breakthrough is Jarvis against Robbie, which will be...
Keanu had just said in the chat that Jarvis versus Robbie can't wait for that at Renegades.
Yeah, agree, Keanu. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Another chicken salad too is one that I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks lately at work, and I listened to the Todd is God, which is the Todd Gordon biography or autobiography. Really, really interesting about the rise of ECW and how that happened and stuff with him and Paul, and very, very interesting to see that side of the story being told. So it was a really good book. So if you get a chance to either pick up the physical copy or to get it on Audible, yeah, highly recommend it. Really good list.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, we mentioned a couple of things going on overseas, but I think it speaks to something when we're so positive about the wrestling that's going on here in Australia, right? Like Geoff saying Jarvis, Todd, you and I talking about TMDK and Top Tier as just the best of the best. I think it's really important to emphasize, if you have a chance to see wrestling, you should go see wrestling, because Aussie wrestling bloody rules. So here's some dates for you. In 2 days' time, Saturday night, September 23, Wide Bay Rise from the Ashes. We've got the returning Dick Riggs challenging Tim Hayden for the championship, as well as a ton of other matches. That's at the Brolga Theatre in Maryborough this Saturday night. I was saying before, while we were in our little break there, that Wide Bay are just my favorite shows. And I know that I'm ring announcing, so I don't get to push it that much because I feel weird about promoting how good the shows are when I'm on them. And I know Todd is similar. Seriously, check out Wide Bay. It is so good.
It's hard for me to go, the shows I write and produce are really, really good. You should come and see them. It feels kind of weird.
But I'll say my job is I jump on a microphone. I'll say, wasn't that something? Ready for the next match? And then I get to sit there and watch the show. And they are always bloody excellent. I can't recommend them enough. But a little further down the line, October 14th, MCW has Fight to Survive. It's going to have Natural Classics versus Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita. It's also going to have Delta versus Jarvis for both the Intercommonwealth and Women's Championships, and a 5-on-5 elimination Fight to Survive match, with one team being the Pareja, Lucky O'Leary, Edward Dusk, and Mick Moretti, and the other team being Big Business, Emin Osman, Caveman Ugg, and somebody. As well as that, a week later in October, if you're in the Sydney area, as I will be for this event, October 21st and 22nd is PWA Coliseum. We've got the night one main event of Jessica Troy versus Ricky South for the PWA Heavyweight Championship announced, as well as we now know 6 of the competitors in the Coliseum tournament announced so far are Cherry Stevens, Paris De Silva, Delta, Emin Osman, Jack Bonza, and Zack Sabre Jr. That is going to be an absolute belter of a tournament. October 28th, the week after that, up here in Brisbane, we got PWL Day of Reckoning. Pro Wrestling League is kind of the standard bearer up here in Queensland, and I believe the main event, or it seems like the main event for that show, is going to be the new champion, Outback Adam, defending against AJ Istria, Punch Drunk Istria, who finally turned and just beat the tar out of Adam at the end of the last show. So that should be a ripper, as well as presumably the P1 tournament final between Bobby Bishop and Tim Hayden. A little bit later, November 11th, if you're down in Melbourne, Renegades of Wrestling are going to have Breakthrough. Tickets are on sale now. As we mentioned, one match announced for that, and it's Jarvis versus Robbie. That should be an absolute cracker. And December 16th in Canberra, another one that I will be making the trek down to, is Rage in the Cage from Slam Wrestling. They're advertising this as the biggest Australian pro wrestling event ever. It's got a main event of Broderick versus Watts in a steel cage. There's going to be a $10,000 battle royale featuring Ricky South as well as others. It's looking to be an absolutely massive show. I know that the two fronts, most sections, have already sold out for this, for a show that's in December. So if you want to get your ticket,
81,000, I think it is the number so far being touted.
Yeah. Great.
81,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll only get about probably 1,000 through the gate, but
yeah, that's right. slamprotix.com.au if you want to get tickets in for that. So that one's on December 16th. If you're going down to Canberra, I'd probably stay 2 nights, stay the 15th as well. That's just what I'd do. Hey, Geoff, anything going on about WrestleBrania in the near future?
Yeah, that idea of going to Canberra for the weekend, maybe I'll stay the 15th as well. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now,
so let me just get that clear. If you're planning around Slam Wrestling on December 16th, maybe you want to stay in Canberra on the 15th of December as well.
Yes. Not for any specific reason.
No particular reason.
Oh, right. Sorry, my chair moved away there. My hat, it says PAX. We're back at PAX. We're going to make some announcements at PAX. So if you're going, you want to come in and watch the show. That is on October 7 at 3 p.m. at the Galah Theatre. We're going to start announcing our guests soon. And believe me, you'll awake to find yourself in a dark room by the end of it when they turn all the lights off. Anyway, that's all I have to say. If you know, and it's great. All right.
That's very great.
Should we talk about the November thing we're going to do?
Yes, we should.
Todd, you're the boss. You get to make that decision.
Okay, we might as well. But we did lock that in, didn't we? The date?
Probably. I don't recall. I think we did.
All right.
Let me get the calendar out.
The 11th.
You're hearing it live, folks.
The 11th.
Get the calendar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. 11th is locked in for me.
Okay.
The 11th of the 11th.
November 11th. Myself, young Lachlan, and Geoff over there will be doing a 10-hour live stream for WrestleRate Australia's 10th anniversary. We'll be doing all different stuff through the day, watching wrestling, talking about wrestling, talking to other people, hopefully getting them on and having a chat with them as well. It's 10 hours for 10 years of WrestleRate Australia, but we're also going to do it to try and raise money for men's health, for mental health, because that's what we do here. We're currently working a way that we can do it where there's proper protections and all of that sort of thing, because the last thing you want to do is take your money and I don't know, maybe go on a tour of America. But what we want to do is help people, because the whole idea of this show has been from day one, help Australian wrestling. When unfortunately we lost the original member of WrestleRate Australia, Josh Armour, to mental health, it's been sort of my mission that I gave up any chance of trying to make any money from this thing, and thought, if I'm going to, any money I earn from making Wrestle Radio Australia something, I put back into Beyond Blue, Gotcha for Life, these sort of charities. And that's sort of what I want to do with this 10-hour marathon, is try and raise money. I want to put the call out to an MCW, to PWA, to Riot City, to EPW, any of the promotions that we've helped, that we've talked about. If you could maybe send us a signed poster, something like that, we can auction off during the show to try and raise money for that. That would be greatly appreciated. But aside from that, we'll be trying to do some stuff during the day to try and raise the money and try and do some good. Try and do some good in this world.
That's right. Geoff, have we organised a little present for Todd for 10 years of Wrestle Radio Australia?
I think we did.
I already have a Brandy Road. I already have a Brandy Road style. I don't.
Oh, don't worry. This is.
You can fucking find them. Trust me. But they're still there.
This is something else.
This is something else entirely. But look, like we said, so much of what we do is to support those mental health charities here in Australia, like Beyond Blue and Gotcha for Life. And if you want to help us do that, you can actually do it while representing Wrestle Radio Australia by heading over to Redbubble, searching for Wrestle Radio Australia. Any merch that you buy from there, those proceeds do go to Beyond Blue and Gotcha for Life. They don't go to us. And, you can represent us and get us in more ears. Another way to get us into more ears is to go over to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. It really does help. Also, if you're over there, make sure you hit subscribe. Hell, you can subscribe anywhere. You can do it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us at twitch.tv/Wrestle Radio Australia. And you can hit subscribe there if you really want to help us out and do that as well. Social media, we're at Wrestle Radio AU on Instagram and X. And you can find us at Wrestle Radio Australia on Facebook. You can also find us individually. We've got at Beast Eastman over there for Todd, at Lachlan Albert here for me. We've got at WrestleBrania for WrestleBrania, and at Geoff Seti for Geoff. Where you can
in both.
Sorry, at Wrestle_Brania and at Geoff_Seti.
Thanks, mate.
I'm just floating. I'm floating now. I'm done, baby. This is the last brain cells that Lachlan has. Do we have anything more to say, gents?
No, we hope to see you at PAX, and watch out for those announcements. And watch out for the show here. It'll be on this channel at some point.
Yeah, so make sure that you do hit follow at twitch.tv/WrestleRadio Australia so that you can see that pack show from WrestleBrania, which I'm very excited to see the stream of that. So on behalf of Geoff Setti and Todd Eastman, I've been Lachlan Albert. Till next time, have a good one.
Peace.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. Put a square peg in a round hole, just